Wow, man. Okay. Aloha. Welcome back for another episode of the Gun Talk. I'm Flying Hawaiian here. We also have Big Hoss, Cannon, and welcome back, media.
What's up?
Hey, how's it
So,
going?
we are going to be talking about 4 different World War II battles. The first
Okay.
beginning, the attack of Pearl Harbor. Then we got the Battle of Midway that happened 6 months after the attack. Then D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge. So before we get right into that, we're gonna hear from look at our sponsors for this episode of the podcast. We have Dubby. If you like really good energy drinks without a big huge crash, that's the way to go. So, hey, Kenan, are they still doing that 30% off? Because I haven't gotten an email about that yet.
Not that I know of. Let me check, and I will tell you.
What about
what's
you,
going
media?
I haven't bought anything in like 2 months, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I drink the Japanese soda from Dubby. It's really good. I like it. Of course, to me, it's a kind of acquired taste. What do you drink, media?
I think the last one I had was the s'mores, and you had to mix it with milk. I bought it like 2 months ago.
How was it?
It's an acquired taste. It took the first time I made it, it didn't taste right, but the second time I didn't do something right the first time, so the second time I made it the right way. I didn't add enough milk, so I had to put more milk to it.
Okay. So, but it tastes like a s'mores?
It does.
Oh, man, I got to try it. I want to get that, the tiger's blood. So,
I want to get some of the Dragonade.
oh, yeah,
one I'm
that
about
was
to
a
get-
good flavor.
The one I actually ordered some today. I ordered the Chainsaw Man, the one with the Chainsaw Man on it.
The orange
okay.
slice?
Yeah,
Let me know if it tastes like orange soda.
I will.
So, besides that, if you guys like dark humor or parody t-shirts, check out Threads of a Resistance. But yeah, I got the last shirt of that from Threads of Resistance. It's actually a good t-shirt to have and have. It's even glow in the dark. Not playing on your end?
It did not play on my end. It just froze. It completely froze up.
Oh wow. Okay, did it? So working back again?
I can Yeah, I can hear you fine now. Just when you're playing the Threads of Resistance ad, I didn't see it.
Oh wow, okay. I know we got a Pandera Gaming.
Panda
So-
Era Gaming. Yeah, that he's a part. He is a part of Media Moguls Productions.
Welcome. All right, so to get into our first battle, here's a little brief intro of that. I know there's no noise. So I got actual footage. All right. Well,
notice how far photography has come. That was all black and white back then. Now everything has color.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and that was actual footage after the destruction of Pearl Harbor. For a lot of you people don't really much know, December 7th, 1941, a little before 8 o'clock, Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan. And that right there brought us into World War II. Franklin D. Roosevelt pleaded to Congress on that day after the attack to declare war on Japan. So on December 8th is when Congress officially said, yes, we're going to war.
To quote FDR, December 7th, a day that will live in infamy.
Oh, yeah. And to this day, I don't know, most of you generations will remember Pearl Harbor was a devastating attack. Little history on that. 20 naval vessels was either destroyed or damaged, and over 300 planes. About 2,403 Americans died. That is a mixture of American military and civilians, and 1,000 wounded. But do you guys know which into what?
I was gonna say a little history. I didn't know about this. I was watching a World War II movie the other day. I was watching the movie Midway, but apparently there's people within the Japanese military that at that time that were trying to tell them not to do this. Like you don't know the sleeping bear, you're gonna wake up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And do you guys know what two ships sunk that day?
The main one, the Arizona.
Oh yeah. And the USS Utah sunk.
Arizona
But-
Utah.
And then you had the Oklahoma capsize.
Oh yeah, with 400 men on board.
Yeah, they ended up having to climb to the bottom of the ship so that they could cut open the bottom of the ship, which wasn't too hard. Which was pretty hard considering the armor plating and the thick steel of the ship.
Oh
have
yeah.
Have y'all heard the story about the Arizona? About how there's when they finally got inside of the Arizona to try to get people out, on one of the walls there's scratch marks for like 16 days. That's how long some people were able to survive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there was 1,000 men trapped on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did you guys know if any living survivor from the USS Arizona can be buried there?
Yeah. I just saw that the other day. One of the last surviving crew members had his ashes interned in the USS Arizona.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite an honor to see that being done. And it's, imagine what he had to mentally go through from that day all the way up till he was passed away.
Yeah, he probably lost friends and all that during that attack.
Oh yeah. And some of the sides of those three ships, you had the USS California, the USS West Virginia there, the USS Maryland, USS Tennessee, and the USS Nevada there as well too.
And for anyone that was a history, like anyone that loved history in school or just loves watching documentaries or reading history, there were reports like the military was told that the Japanese fleet was moving somewhere, and they just ignored all the warnings.
Yeah, that's what I was told as well too. What I read it as well, but they were also, in some occasions, they were also fed wrong details as well too. If most of you guys didn't know or not understand, Japan had a spy there on the islands, watching Pearl Harbor, how they do their routines, where their ships were at on Battleship Row, and their basic routine, so Japan could plan accordingly. But that spy also didn't know that the U.S. carriers weren't there. They were often middle of the Pacific, either heading back to California or heading towards somewhere else. And so majority of the fleet wasn't there when they attacked that day. You guys, yeah.
Also, did you know that for them to be able to do what they did, like the planes when they dropped the torpedoes into the water, they had to have special modifications on the ends of them because Pearl Harbor was so shallow?
Oh yeah. Japan was the first one to develop those, and that's what kind of turned it into their favor.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, if you guys don't know Hollywood films or most movies by now, there's two films that represents the attack of Pearl Harbor. You have the Tor, and that is the actual true counts of what happened on both sides. Then you got the Hollywood Ben Affleck film Pearl Harbor.
Don't forget, you also have the movie Midway. It also depicts it.
Yes, because 6 months after the attack of Pearl Harbor, that's when the Battle of Midway happened.
Yes, but also in the movie Midway, it also depicts the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. I haven't seen it the whole film yet, but don't spoil it for me.
I won't. It was a good cast. They had a good cast for it.
Oh, that's good at least.
Woody Harrelson was in it.
So they tried to turn into a comedy?
Yeah, he was actually this is one of the only movies I've seen where he's actually a more serious type.
Oh
character.
Wow! I definitely got to finish watching it. But these fins were wooden that they made out of it for it.
Yeah.
And it made it where they dropped maybe 5 feet below the water to be able to go.
Yeah, and then they would break off and they'd continued normally.
Yeah.
Some would say that. Oh, sorry. I was gonna
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll just say some people believe, like historians believe, that when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, that was their death blow.
It wasn't really much of a death blow, but a being crippled a little bit. You know how you like when you break your arm, you're crippled for a little bit? Because Japan missed valuable targets to actually give us a death blow. They missed the
they're saying it was the death blow for Japan. Like they basically shot themselves, and because after that we came at them full both barrels.
Oh yeah, then because it's pretty much like you said before the podcast started. It's pretty much poking the bear. And Japan missed oil depots, 2 other airfields on Hawaii.
Yeah. And you were talking about it a minute ago. I don't want to get too much into Hollywood movies about World War II, but in the movie Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck, the one scene when the attack is going on, Ben Affleck and what's his name, the guy that plays his best friend in the movie, they were able to get 2 planes in the air to go after the Japs.
Yes. Besides those 2 pilots, do you know how many total pilots they were that got up in the air during the actual attack of Pearl Harbor?
I think it was maybe 6 or 7.
About 8 to 14 pilots actually got
How many
off
of them? How many of them were shot down?
With all the research I did, one barely made it back to the airfield. It lost its tail, lost its canopy, had no brakes, and barely made it and landed.
Yeah, it was a P-40 Thunder.
It's a P-40 Warhawk.
A Hawk?
P-40 Warhawk.
Yeah, Warhawk.
The only 2 planes that actually made it but in the sky are the P-40 Warhawks and the P-36 Hawk. Those are less powerful than the P-40s.
Yeah.
But only 3 pilots actually shot down planes. You have Second Lieutenant George Welch, who shot down 4 planes.
Makes him an ace.
Oh yeah. Second Lieutenant Kenneth Taylor, who shot down 2. Those were the first 2 pilots who actually got up in the air. Just like how in the Pearl Harbor movie, Ben Affleck and his buddy.
Yep.
Those were the first 2 that actually made it in the air first. And they had to rush like how in Pearl Harbor to another airfield.
Yeah.
But they were maybe 6 months out of pilot school when that happened.
I know. What was it? In the movie Pearl Harbor, Ben Affleck and the other guy, I don't know the actor's name, but his best friend in the movie, they're saying they were sleeping in the car right before the attack happened, and they just thought it was the Navy doing exercises on a Sunday.
I have not found any of those counts, but what they were wearing was not aloha shirts. They were wearing tuxedo. When they saw bombings and whatnot, they put back on their tuxedo pantses and took off to the airfield. But those are not the only pilots that didn't put their actual uniform on. You have let's see here. I have it here. Second Lieutenant Philip Rasmussen. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, guys. But who was still in his pajama pants that got into a P-36 Hawk fighter.
Yeah.
In his pajama pants.
Got out of bed, went to work.
Yeah. And I think that was the one that came back like with so many bullet holes. They didn't know why it was still flying.
Oh yeah, and it says, he had, after shaking 2 zeros off his tail, managed to score 1 more kill, and that was when he left his aircraft get hit. What it also claims, there was a lot of noise, he recalled. He shot my canopy off. The P-36 had lost its hydraulics, tail wheel. Nursing his badly damaged plane back to the airfield, he managed to land without his brakes, rudders, or tail wheel.
What do you think he is, Tom Cruise?
Yeah, and later discovered that 2 20-millimeter cannon shells has lodged themselves in the bulk radio behind the pilot's seat, which saved his life.
Real life maverick.
Yeah. You know, there was a total of 29 Japanese planes shot down during that attack. So, you know, I gotta give it the brave men and women there at the attack of Pearl Harbor. You know, you guys did a great job defending our lives and everything and what we stand for today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
I know.
6 months after Pearl Harbor, we have the Battle of Midway.
Yeah, I got a video here from the History Channel that put the pathways that actually leads into the next segment of this channel. See if I can get it brought up. Get you guys' thoughts on this, because
All I see right now is the picture of the battleship, smoke coming from the battleships.
yeah, I'm surprised that it's not. Okay, there we go.
The 1941 bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese was one of the most devastating attacks on American soil. But just a few decades earlier, Japan and the United States were allies in World War I. So how did things get so bad between them? It all comes down to oil. To explain, we need to go all the way back to the 19th century. Once an isolated nation, Japan underwent a makeover of sorts to compete with the West. Known as the Meiji Restoration, it embraced industrialization, built up its military, and restored Japan's emperor as the powerful head of state. Aided by two successful wars, Japan aggressively expanded its empire. The Japanese were becoming an imperial superpower until the Great Depression hit. You see, Japan is an island nation with few natural resources, so it depends on international trade to keep its economy afloat. The economic crisis put a stop to all that. Japan was in a bind, so its military leaders, who called the shots at this point, decided the best defense against financial ruin would be a good offense. They would invade nearby China, particularly Manchuria, for its plentiful resources like iron, soybeans, and land. Lots and lots of unsettled land. So what does this all have to do with the United States? Well, the U.S. was a long-standing Chinese ally, and it watched uneasily from the sidelines as the two nations clashed in the 1930s. But America wanted nothing to do with another war, so it just denounced Japan's aggression. Tensions rose in 1937 when Japan invaded the Chinese city of Nanjing. In doing so, they attacked an American gunboat, killing 3 and wounding dozens. Disturbing images coming out of war-torn China further swayed American opinion against Japan. In response, America attacked Japan's resources. They imposed economic sanctions of aircraft, scrap metal, and other items crucial to Japan's military. The U.S. hoped the sanctions would stop Japanese expansion, but Japan doubled down, invading French Indochina in 1940 and then teaming up with Germany and Italy. Why those two countries? Because like Japan, they were controlled by militaristic governments, obsessed with conquest and driven by a deep sense of nationalism. The final straw came in July of 1941, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt announced a trade embargo on oil. An oil shortage was an absolute disaster for Japan, who relied on imports for 90% of its supply. Not only would this destroy the Japanese economy, but it would put its military at a literal standstill, which meant no more expansion. Japan resented the U.S. for meddling in its quest to dominate Asia. The only solution left for the Japanese was total war. Crush the U.S. fleet in the Pacific and then occupy Southeast Asia and claim its resources. And so, on December 7, 1941, Japan launched its surprise attack at Pearl Harbor. At first, it seemed like a win for the Japanese, destroying or damaging 21 U.S. ships and more than 300 aircraft, and killing around 2,400 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and civilians. But the success was short-lived. The United States declared war on Japan on December 8, 1941. Not long after, the Japanese would realize the mistake it made at Pearl Harbor. Their bombers had failed to deliver a mortal blow to the Pacific Fleet, missing oil tanks, ammunition sites, repair facilities, and aircraft carriers. Just 6 months later, remnants of the U.S. fleet would score a key victory against Japan at the Battle of Midway. turning the tide of the war against the once mighty Japanese.
And that's where we have the Battle of Midway.
Yeah, that whole video was like that whole video was like someone was it was like echoing really badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard all of it, but just it was like I had to turn my headphones down for a lot of that.
Oh wow.
But no, the oil was actually supposed to be turned off slowly to like the president had wanted the US to start cutting off their oil slowly to give them warnings until they you know, to be like, all right, hey, you know, stop doing this
Japan.
and we'll turn back on the oil. But so what happened was someone in the lower you know, in charge of it, they took it as cut off all the oil at once, and that sort of caused the Japanese to get a little desperate.
Yeah. Then we have the Battle of Midway.
No,
Actually, what got us a great big victory in the Pacific?
yeah, and just going back to we were talking about it, the movie Midway. A lot Japanese had one strategy for the Battle of Midway, and we ended up doing the complete opposite of what they thought we would do. And that's what led us to get the victory at the Battle of Midway. We outsmarted them after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah, we had to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had actually intercepted a great many communiques from them that were encoded, and we had actually sent out an encoded one to see. We had a feeling that it was Midway Island because some of the events just matched up. So for confirmation, they actually sent back a encoded communique saying, or a fake communique saying that Midway was out of water, and here enough they intercepted a encoded communique back, and it confirmed that Midway was their target that they were heading towards.
Yeah, weren't we outnumbered by 2-1 with the Battle of Midway?
Yes, because Nimitz had was supposed to be like guarding it, but he tried following a portion of the Navy fleet up and away, which he really kind of that was a bad thing of his career, like the worst thing that happened in his career. It was he actually his attack sort of worked against him. And then you had the main force, which included the Yamato, which is at the time the world's largest and most powerful battleship. And we ended up fighting off what was the Japanese main fleet, using only what was left away from the things, the island, and the pilots that were on the island. So it was mostly an air war, although we did have a lot of U.S. destroyers that actually ended up sinking some of the cruisers and uh, battleships that had come into the thing. One of which was the I want to say it was the USS Johnson. It's known as the tin can that fought like a battleship. It wasn't even it wasn't even a destroyer. It was a destroyer escort. No, wait, it was the Samuel B. Roberts. That's it. Samuel B. Roberts. Had ended up sinking 2 ships before getting sunk itself, and they weren't even these were things that should not have been able to be taken down by this ship. Like, these things were made for taking on and protecting destroyers from submarines and stuff.
Yeah.
But it ended up fighting off this force that it had no chance against, but it still did it.
Yeah, but with all the attack on the Battle of Midway, that's a lot of the. It was mainly a naval battle than an island battle.
Yeah, there was really no landing on Midway, which there was going to be, but we ended up scaring off the Imperial main force by making it think, oh, the main force we tried to get to follow our decoy was actually still here, and it didn't work. So they ended up turning around and hightailing it, even though it wasn't our main force. It was a small detachment of destroyers and cruisers that were left to defend the islands.
Oh yeah, and during this whole entire battle, as you said, breaking the code of trying to figure out what Japan is doing, especially what happened after the attack on Pearl Harbor. That was the major big deal of this. And we all know different countries have different kind of code or some way to communicate without anybody else knowing. And to decipher it really quick is pretty hard.
Yeah.
And with all this happening 6 months after Pearl Harbor, that really says something for the U.S. So, and Japan lost roughly about 3,000 men, and we only lost around 400. An aircraft carrier, one destroyer, and about 150 aircrafts. That's saying a lot. I don't know about you, Big Hoss, because I know you're a big historian. That shows that no matter what the U.S. is face up, they are a big threat.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we managed to fight off against the odds, and that's sort of been our MO ever since we were founded as a country.
And this brings up to our next battle, is this happened on June 4th. Simultaneously to that, on June 6th, the Battle of D-Day. You know? And that's where we stormed the beach of Normandy 2 days after Midway.
Yep. And actually, the Higgins boats that they used to storm the beaches of Normandy that were so crucial were actually invented by a boat maker here in Louisiana, in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
That's why the D-Day Museum is here. The official D-Day Museum is here in New Orleans.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
they said without that guy creating those boats, we never would have won World War II.
Or not
At
even
least
long
in the-
then D-Day.
Yeah, like at least in the European, because we would have never got people in through Normandy, and we wouldn't have got people into Europe.
Actually, it would have just been hard. It was hard to get troops into anywhere without it because he was the one who designed all the landing craft.
Yeah,
So it would have been mostly air wars and bombing campaigns.
Oh, yeah. And on D-Day, we lost, what, thousands of troops that day?
Yeah.
yeah,
And, you know, that is a very sad day, along with, like, Midway, Pearl Harbor, and all that. And, you know, I got to give it to all our World War II veterans. You know, what they did, they paved the way for us that we have now.
yeah,
And, you know, if for people who like movies like that, Saving Private Ryan is about the storming Normandy Beach, the beginning part at least, and also about a private there. I know Hollywood changed the name, but because a private's brothers died, they need to go save him.
yeah. It was about the invention of the Sullivan Code, because the Sullivan brothers were all killed during World War II, and there were no more sons to carry on the family name, so they created the Sullivan Act, where as long as there's one son to carry on the name, all your other sons can go to war.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sullivans were on the USS Bunker Hill, which was a small destroyer escort that was attacked, and all 5 of the brothers died on it because they fought together. It was then renamed the USS the Sullivans, and is now being displayed as a museum piece in I forget, but it's like the Navy's main museum yard.
Wow, I gotta see some of those places, man. Because I'm a little historian myself. I love World War II stuff. I gotta see some of that. With D-Day paving our way to victory, you know, especially trying to get one up on the Axis powers in World War II, that made it possible for us to actually win. Before we continue going, question of the day, I know I'm kind of starting late on it, is when did World War II end for the U.S. and where did it happen? You guys post down your comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, and it might come to surprise you exactly where it happened and what year. So, like I said, I'd love to hear you guys, see you guys' comments, see what you guys think. So, but if because then, like I said, you're a big historian. If we would have lost D-Day, how possible would it have been for the U.S. to win or help the European countries win?
Well, we most likely would have lost England. They were really close to not being able to sustain themselves. But D-Day was actually quite a success, considering we managed to fool them using inflatable tanks and inflatable jeeps with a whole bunch of phony, just mind games and trickery.
Oh yeah, because I know we talked about some of the military weapon somewhat, from the battleships that used in Midway to the planes that they used in Pearl Harbor. What was the turn of events for weapon-wise for the U.S. to have in Normandy? Because we all know they probably had M1 Grands around that time. But
yeah, the three main weapons at the time were M1 Garands, M14s, and
No, not M14s.
oh no, M4. Well, I mean, in total, the American military.
Well, it was the M at the time. The big weapons that they would be carrying would be the M1 Grand, the M1 Carbine,
The M1 carbine. That's what I meant.
yeah, the M1 Carbine, the M1A Thompson, and then everyone was outfitted with the Colt 1911 as their sidearm.
1911. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the 1911 was a very historical gun that kind of helped turn the tides a little bit in like handgun warfare.
It was one of the best handguns ever invented because it stayed with us from World War One until very recently.
And when it was replaced with the Beretta M9, that's also known as the Beretta 92F.
Yeah. But some people still use the newer versions of the M1911.
Yeah. Because I know during this beach storm, if everybody's seen Saving Private Ryan, you've seen everybody taking their M1 Grands out of a plastic bag once they come out of the water, and just seeing that footage, I know it's not actual footage, but it's kind of a scary thought of what they went through.
And at that time, every pack contained a condom. And do you know why?
Protect the ammo?
No, to protect the barrel. You would put it over the barrel so the barrel wouldn't get water in it.
Oh, okay. Smart. So, right after D-Day, I know that the next major battle was the Battle of the Bulge. And I'll let you, Kenan, to run with that.
Yeah, the battle itself wasn't really it was kind of major, but in more of the sense of Americans learning new info that was very important to ourselves. What happened at the time was we found out something we never knew before, that the Germans were learning English, and no one knew it. We thought they only spoke German and that was it, which at the time is true. But somehow they were learning our English. I believe it was over our radios. They had captured some of the radios from some of the Americans that they captured, and they were listening to the English and deciphering it and getting their Germans to learn it. Well, what happened was these Germans that knew English and they spoke it fairly well, they would go up to the bunkers full of Americans with several of their other guys, and they would come in and looking for refuge from the cold and stuff like that. Be like, look, guys, we need to come in from the cold. Can we come in? And being okay with that, because they spoke English, we spoke English. They had to be, either British troops or American troops or whatever dialect they spoke it in. We would let them in. And once they got in, they would corner us off and surprise us and gun us down. Well, after learning about this led to, a big battle, stuff like that. But it mainly led to the invention of the most important thing that helped us turn the tide on them, which was the passphrase. I knew it earlier. Who's the most popular cartoon character in America, or something like that? And the answer was Mickey Mouse. So whenever the Americans would ask them that, and they wouldn't say Mickey Mouse because they didn't know who Mickey Mouse was, the Americans would turn on them and shoot them all down. I don't know if that was the question for sure. I just know the answer was Mickey Mouse because that was an important thing. But the question was something along that lines, like who is America's #1 cartoon or something like that.
There were two others questions, but
Yeah.
I'm doing this from the History Channel. One of them was about football and Betty Grable.
Yeah.
It was Betty Grable.
Grable. Okay. So I pronounced it wrong.
Yeah, it was those three questions. But like those, that's what started passphrases in the military outside of, spycraft and stuff. It was something we took from spycraft and made it into a military thing.
Yeah, I know. This all happened December 16th, 1944, and what the History Channel is saying is an attempt to push Allies front line west from northern France into northwestern Belgium.
Yeah.
So I'd say it was a good push that they did to get the German army back away from their allies.
Right.
And I don't know how accurate, the History Channel, because I know they're fairly accurate, but there's always some difference. It's saying that the Germans threw 250,000 soldiers into the attack.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't a big battle. It really was. I'm saying what was most important about it. But yeah, it was a big battle that was, heavy winter, heavy snow, because that area sees a lot of snow. Maybe not now as much as then, but we're trying to get tanks through snow and stuff like that, and ice and stuff like that, and neither of us know the terrain. Well, we know it more because we have the French resistance, showing us the way and stuff like that. But it's a haphazardly type war because we're trying to navigate through what we can. We don't. It's all snowed over, frozen over. We don't know where the weak spots are. Neither does the Germans, so we're on equal footing there.
Yeah, except like how you said, the Germans found a way.
Yeah,
with how you said it, the language, but they also used our uniforms, our trucks, jeeps to infiltrate us.
right. The ones that were they could steal or they could find that weren't being used and retrofit them to fit over whatever they had. Just to make them work. Because at the time theft was a big thing between the sides. If you could go steal even just one of the enemy's tanks or something like that, that was a big deal. Or if you could find an enemy tank and get it to work, that was a big deal. Because then you had that camouflage that could, all you had to do was make it drive. You didn't have to have the gun to work or anything like that. You just had to get the actual treads working on the tank or the actual wheels working on the Jeeps. You didn't have to have anything else working on it, just as long as it moved. And that's all the proof the Americans needed. They didn't ask you, hey, how about you fire the tank for us first, As long as they spoke English, looked American, that's all they needed. And that's what was most dangerous about this battle, was that they could walk the walk and talk the talk, and that's what cost most American lives in the battle.
Oh yeah, and how bad it was getting infiltrated for the US. We still came on top.
Yeah. Regardless of, all the troops they threw at us and everything like that, I believe I forgot how many troops we have, but even though we suffered the losses we did, we still won them over and pushed them back into Belgium and moved forward ourselves.
And at this time, they started using the wind talkers and code talkers.
Yeah.
To start encrypting their intercoms.
They would use the Navajo as wind talkers, the Cajun, because the Germans couldn't understand the Cajun French. So they would use Cajun people.
Yeah, and that's where we get the movie Wind Talkers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that because, as you said, code talkers, they use the Navajo as their code, and the Germans, Japan couldn't decipher it whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
And they had to start, as you said, with the Battle of Bulge, infiltrate us and get our code talkers to try to decipher it. By the time that happened, it was too late.
Yeah, it's It's really not a thing where you could just get like have someone steal code books or have someone take information. They would need someone to actually get one of the code talkers to their lines and get them to work with them, which most of the time they would rather die.
Didn't most of them get tortured and still didn't get nowhere until the very end?
Yeah. Because the Navajo, again, like most Native American tribes, were a warrior people.
Oh, yeah. And this coming towards the end of our podcast for today. So, back to the question of the day. When did World War II end for the U.S. and where? So, I haven't seen any comments down below or anything, but that answer is September 2nd, 1945 on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. So that's right after they dropped the 2 atomic bombs on Japan. So, come to brief conclusion about some battles of the U.S. from the attack of Pearl Harbor to the Battle of the Bulge, and how we came to winning World War II. Now, any other thoughts, you guys?
No, I think this is a good conclusion. Just, remember your veterans and
Yeah.
don't discount the older generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you like all the history and everything, talk to our veterans. Our veterans know what wars they've been through, and how we came on top. Support your local veterans, your local VA. Tell them thanks for what they did for their service. It takes a lot of guts and balls to do what they did back then.
And also keep your hearts and minds out to the ones we lost.
Yeah.
My hearts go out to all those family members that lost loved ones in World War II. I had a great grandfather who was actually there at the attack of Pearl Harbor. The only thing he told me is he can hear the screams, he can hear the bombs going off, he can hear the planes roar, all the cannon fire from the planes. All he could do is sit, board up his house, and watch all that happen. And that's one of the scariest things he has ever witnessed in his life. And so that's where my love and respect came for all of our veterans.
Also, like don't let the media like fool you in like the movies and stuff like that. You have to think of how scared. Like I know our countrymen serving today are scared and stuff like that, but think about how scared those people in World War II were, because they didn't have the armor and the medical knowledge like we did today. Like in World War II, all they had was a jacket and pants, and they didn't have armor and stuff like that. And if they stepped on something wrong and twisted their ankle, that they left the war. I mean, they couldn't just get on like a small or some of that athlete's tape and stuff like that and go right back out. They had to lay in bed for weeks while their ankle healed and stuff like that. Not saying that, you know, today's soldier isn't, you know, better or worse than back then, but the ones back then, you know, they had to deal with a lot more than today's soldier does because they had a lot less than we do today. So just keep that in mind on you know, while all this is going through your mind.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, go in Hawaii on an island of Oahu, go to the memorials of the USS Arizona, pay your respects to them, or to the memorial at Pearl Harbor, paying your respects to everybody there. So,
Or
just
the
give-
World War II memorial in I think it's Washington D.C. and pay your respects there too.
Oh yeah. So that's gonna leave you another episode of the Gun Talk. We'll see you guys next week. So aloha.